Hi Gabriel Picart, it's really nice to see you here in Taiwan. We're in Taipei at the moment. I'll ask you a bit about your background in art.
Of course, I remember myself with a pencil in my hands from very young. And when I was a teenager, I was very lucky. I met two of the most important illustrators of the world. They were Pepe Gonzalez, who was well known for the Vampirella comics, and Enrique Torres Prat, who was one of the best cover artists. I started visiting them in their studio, and shortly thereafter I was invited to be the third member of that studio. So I was very lucky to be able to learn illustration art from two great masters. As a consequence, I worked as illustrator for maybe 20 years, something like that, for the most important publishing companies in the States. And this is my background. From year 96, 95, 96, I changed it from illustration art to fine art. But my background in commercial art, I think it's a great help. It doesn't matter who you are, who supports you. I think it's the most democratic art somehow, because a cover of the book is viewed by thousands and thousands of people. And my biggest influence was Norman Rockwell, no doubt. But I also love it very much, the illustrators of the beginning of the century, the American illustrators of the beginning of the century, like Wyatt, Pyle, Howard Pyle, and so many others, Parrish. As a fine art painter, I also like, they also influenced me, the Victorian painters like Waterhouse and so many others, and also the French painters like Bouguereau, Bonnat. I would say that the realistic painters and illustrators from the late 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century are the artists that most influenced me and the most I like yet.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'd also like to ask you a little bit, what would you consider your most prized painting, or the painting that you've most enjoyed painting, and why is that?
I couldn't tell about only one. Certainly there are some paintings that I love more than the others, but there's a different reason for each of one, and it's difficult to pick one. But I would say, for example, in this show I brought what is clearly a portrait of my daughter. That makes me very happy. That's a painting that makes me very happy, but this is a personal issue. Also because the difficulty of the painting itself. And yeah, I would say if my daughter or my wife is involved in the painting, and that's so familiar for me, that makes these paintings special.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
I don't know if growing up in an environment such as the Parkwell determine your future life as an artist, because other members of my family grew up in the same environment, although not so much as I did. I had a very special relationship with my grandmother, who was taking care of the main entrance of the Parkwell. But certainly this growing up in the Parkwell is very significant in my development as artist, and my liking for beauty and for art itself. It's like living in the Arcadia somehow. But that was before. Now, unfortunately, it's not the same thing with the mass tourism. It changed a lot. But when I was a kid, the Parkwell and Barcelona itself was much more a quiet place, and really was great.
Do you still live there now? Because I know that your family had a house there.
No, I don't live in the Parkwell anymore, but I live in the century. In this minute, I consider myself a pure realist painter. Many people, when they see my images in the internet, they think that I am photorealist or hyperrealist, and I am not. I think the difference between hyperrealism and realism is that when you look at a hyperrealist painting from some distance, it looks like a photo. But when you get closer, it still looks like a photo. While a realist painting certainly looks like a photo or real, or very real from some distance, but when you get closer, you can still see the brushstrokes. That makes the difference. I like the people when it gets closer to my paintings to see the brushstrokes. Even I would say almost like an impressionist painting, but when they get away, then it becomes real again. So it's like some magic, you know, some brushstrokes that turn into reality into the viewer's mind. That's what I like most.
I'd also like to talk about your artwork a little bit. And
This still life is based on an existing painting by Salvador Dali, one of the most I like from him. Both Salvador Dali and me, we are Catalan, and one of our most famous dishes is bread, tomato, and oil of olive. His painting was only a bread at the corner of a table. So I decided that I thought that two important elements were missing. I decided to make a revision of his paintings, and that's the reason why.
oh, very interesting. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, and it is. It's very striking. It's absolutely amazing. I'd also like to ask you about the composition of your paintings, because do you use a certain formula or?
Yeah, I take a lot of care on some compositional rules. I like to bear in mind, for example, the golden rule whenever I can. A lot of paintings are using diagonals, so sometimes I use them, sometimes I avoid them, but this is always present in my paintings when I first think about them. I think to take care of composition is really important, although they are simple lines in the space, but they're checked to.
Oh, wonderful. I'd like to ask you as well about for artists out there, what would you, if anyone who's an aspiring artist, what sort of advice would you give them and for them?
Well, I don't know if it is a good advice, because probably they will make a lot of money with that advice, but as an artist, what I would say is always, when you doubt about two directions, just always pick the most difficult one. Always challenge yourself. Always get the most difficult way. And that's not only for art. That's for yourself, the way when you live. I think that the most challenging thing used to be the right way to go.
Great, very interesting. Thank you for sharing your information.